What was the final straw that ended a lifelong friendship? When I was a freshman in college, I shared a room with my best friend from high school. I kept a diary that I wrote in every day, and I would hide it in my locked closet. One day I came back from class to find her reading out loud from my diary to a group of our friends. She had broken into the closet just to get the diary. I haven't spoken to that bitch in 30+ years. Wow. F her and the other friends, that's so wrong. Sorry this happened to you. College is often when you find out who your real friends are. My high school best friend berated me for switching university programs and sitting in on lectures for the program I was interested in while dropping classes in my current program so as not to kill my GPA. She told me I was being reckless and I should just stay in the program but change my major. I was in life sciences and wanted to switch to engineering. She told me to just switch to physical sciences. After a lot of pushback from me, it started to turn into a conversation about myself and my character and how I've apparently always been irresponsible. I couldn't help but remember all the times she didn't stick up for me, didn't include me in group activities, and straight up shunned me over a misunderstanding between myself and 2 others in our friend group, even though she told me she felt like we were all in the wrong but maintained contact with them despite being friends with me for much longer. She'd constantly say nothing is wrong and then proceed to shun me. The misunderstanding didn't even involve her. But that's a whole other story I shouldn't get into. After some time, I had enough and said I was done with the friendship. She told her boyfriend while in tears and he messaged me telling me to be her friend again. I told him no and why. I quickly realized he wasn't asking me to make up with her, he was asking me to lie by saying we're friends even though we're not, just to make her happy. Y'all are clearly perfect for each other. I've left almost all of my high school friends behind, never really felt like I belonged somewhere, and the only other person I was very close with moved to Australia. Well, I'm much happier in my current program. I've landed an engineering internship with the biggest city in Canada, and I have better friends in my life. My best friend of over 20 years, we both had kids about the same age, and our daughters were also best friends. She left her then 15-year-old with me for a week while she went on a trip to Bali, no problem at all, and her daughter attempted to end her life. I took her to hospital, got care for her, sat by her bed for 3 days, made sure she was set up with a social worker, got her connected with the local mental health unit and youth services team, and put a plan in place to help her recover and move forward, etc, etc, etc. Obviously I'd called her mum on day 1 and kept her appraised, but this woman not only didn't change her flights and come home, because it would have cost $200 to change the flights, she literally told me, oh, you don't have to go to the hospital every day to sit with her, that's what the nurses are for. And then when she finally got back, she flipped out at me for parenting her child behind her back. I'm still in contact with the kid, she's living independently and working as a baker's apprentice, she's gone no contact with her mother, but she still rings me up when she needs a grown-up to talk to. I will never speak to that friend again. Well done for being the adult that child needed. Thank you, smiley face. It was a really challenging time to go though. I won't dismiss the girl's experience by calling it a cry for attention because it was a very serious situation, and without intervention she would have died, but it wasn't really a serious attempt. She took a huge amount of paracetamol and then told someone on Facebook about it, so it got back to me within an hour via the Friends of Friends grapevine. But it was still harrowing, and dealing with it when it's not my kid, having to make medical decisions, and still counsel and support my own child at the same time. I was really stressed. I'm just glad she's okay and she got the care she needed. I'll always be there for her. Even if it were a cry for attention, she desperately needed that attention and care, and she clearly wasn't getting it from her mother. You're a good person. He had the gall to unexpectedly die on me. Kidding about the gall, I still miss him. Yep. Best friend died suddenly after not talking for a couple months. I didn't respond to his last Facebook message and I think about it constantly. One of my friends committed suicide a few weeks after I had my first child. She had texted me to say congratulations and I never responded just because I was in the thick of being a new mom. I'm sure she understood that, but I think about it all the time. I wish I could have talked with her then. I felt that I was doing all the legwork. I started every conversation, was the first one to email, text, etc. So one day I decided I was going to wait for her to message first. And sure, here we are 18 years later. The same thing happened to me. My best friend moved out of state. I would text and call, but I eventually realized I was the one making the effort, so I stopped reaching out. I hit my breaking point when, about a year after she moved, we were taking a road trip and would pass through her city. She seemed excited to see us, but on the day of, cancelled. We said we'd catch her on the way back. She agreed, and cancelled that day too. I haven't spoken to her since. It was painful, but the old saying, if someone wants to see you, they will make time to see you, is true. I guess the friendship meant more to me than her. Kept borrowing money for me to feed their kids or get their kids medication, it's an emergency. And, truly, they were destitute. These instances were plausible. But, one day, after being told one of the kids had been hospitalized and released home, and between the Uber rides to and from the hospital they didn't have enough for his meds at the pharmacy, I signed on to Facebook and saw pictures of them, sick kid included, at a block party. Destroyed the friendship for me. For the record, I never expected them to pay back borrowed money for food or medicine. I was happy to help. Those kids were like my kids, too. It was betrayal and finding out I wasn't loved like I loved that got me. I had a friend who was complaining that his power was about to get shut off. I pulled up his account with the utility company and paid a large chunk of it off. He thanked me profusely, then the next day posted on Facebook the new steering wheel that he bought for his iRacing setup he was trying to assemble. Wrote him off that day. Had a similar thing happen to me in college. I had a job, he sort of did, had like part-time lab work, he was always needing covered for rent, food, etc. I did what I could to keep the lights on and the rent paid. He periodically paid some money back, or gets a pizza, or whatever. Honestly, I didn't really care, he had been my best friend since I was 5 years old, what was a couple $100 or even $1,000? It all came tumbling down near the end of the spring term. We were at the house, and his girlfriend wanted to go out bowling. Personally, I like bowling, but I literally did not have 2 pennies to rub together at that moment. I had just dropped all my cash covering utilities and rent for the whole house, and I didn't get paid for a few more days. So, I said, nah, I will pass. I am literally out of cash. 2 seconds later, his girlfriend chimes in, you are always broke. Always needing money. Don't you have a job? After that, I was seeing red, but I didn't explode. Just looked at my friend, who looked panicked. One of our other friends stayed behind after they left, and informed me that she had heard I was constantly borrowing money from him, my friend. That I was always short on rent, utilities, and his girlfriend was pissed because it affected things they wanted to do, like taking trips. My friend had flipped the script. Using all his money on wine and dining his girlfriend, then telling everyone we knew I was borrowing money when he was tapped out, as an excuse. Needless to say, I was pissed. Told him to grow up. I went home for the summer to visit my mom. Came back to town with us being evicted from the house. Turns out, he had decided to stop paying anything towards rent, didn't tell me, hid all the owner complaints, and then was bailing out. Also, just as an extra kick to the teeth, I lost the deposit on the place, which I had paid. Apparently, he had been storing an old car battery in his closet. It had leaked, melted through the carpet and floor, and literally fell under the house. After that, and a bit more lying and drama, I finally just had a talk with him. Told him that I couldn't be friends with him until he grew up and took responsibility. Told him he could come talk to me again when he was ready to apologize and stop lying. It was the last conversation I ever had with him, it's been almost 20 years now. Everything was someone else's fault. On both the macro and micro levels. If it was an interpersonal issue, it was never him at fault, ever. Relationship problems, always his partner's at fault. Even when the same reasons caused each breakup. Got into a verbal altercation at the bar? Someone else's fault completely. It was too exhausting. I had one of these. The drama in her life always just happened to her. Exhausting is exactly the word. One day she decided my kids were the instigators of some evil, and I've never cut someone off so fast. Begone Tilda. When I realized that me being a good friend to her was actually just me being a caretaker with poor boundaries and putting up with years of emotional abuse. When that fog lifted, it was completely life-changing. He was banjing my wife for 3 years and had the temerity to say that it was my fault. I had a guy throw up in my cab once and say it wasn't his fault. I asked him whose fault it was then. He looked abashed and admitted that it was his fault. He kept having kids with different girls, then bailing on them. I just couldn't watch it anymore. I left after the third one. Pretty sure he's at 6 or 7 now. Knew a guy like this. IDK what his count is, but last I heard it was 4 with 4 different women by the time we were about 24. Would always bitch about child support. However, he would brag about how he refuses to wear condoms and how he came inside one night stands. He was an idiot. I always wonder, how do guys like this find women who are willing to do it with such complete morons? Some women are also complete morons, and they find each other. I realized that I was the only one that reached out. So I stopped reaching out, and that was that. That's how most of my adult friendships ended. I was constantly reaching out and being the initiator. As soon as I stopped, it's like I never existed. I was diagnosed with cancer a year after moving across the country from my friends from high school. I didn't ask for them to do anything except play some online games with me while I recovered from surgery. Not one of them did. They were playing other games, I could see in my various friends lists, but none of them would put aside the games they were playing to keep me company and take my mind off of things. No texts, no phone calls, nothing. The only thing I asked for was time, online company, and they put in zero effort. This was the last straw in a long, long string of feeling like an afterthought. It's been 9 years and not a single one of them has even tried to contact me since then. Guess being an afterthought was too optimistic even. She was a key witness to my rape trial but was too lazy to go into the police station to make a statement. She had 3 years to do it. I lost the trial, but it was close. I'll always wonder if I would have got justice if she had done it. Everything was a competition that my friend had to win. The day that she noticed my brand new jug and said that hers was bigger was the day I realized that I didn't want to be friends anymore. Found out he slept with my high school girlfriend and held that secret for 10 years. He also invited my 13-year-old sister out to drink and party with our friends. Drew the line, ended the friendship, and clocked him in the jaw for that one. I didn't learn he slept with my high school girlfriend until many years after the friendship ended. But that made a lot of things make complete sense. He was always extremely angry and ticked off at me whenever I spent time with her. He was never a friend really. We were supposed to move in together, the first move away from our parents. Fortunately, we were renting from my parents, because the night before our move-in date, he called me to say he had gotten his own apartment earlier that day, without me. He then listed entirely everything about me that annoyed him and every mistake and flaw I had that he knew about. Since he was my best friend, it was a lot. There was no sign this was coming. We had only ever argued a couple of times. I never knew that so much about me was so distasteful to him. I was devastated. A couple of weeks later, he called and came over until I spoke to him. He was very apologetic for reasons I would have completely understood had he told me he had a breakdown and realized he needed to live on his own. Knowing it was going to mess things up for me, he made it my fault. He said he didn't mean any of it and was horrified about how he treated me. Yet it was so detailed and specific, going back years to incidents that I had no idea were an issue. There was just no fixing it. I could never feel comfortable and trust him again. On one hand, I miss people I used to know. I don't miss him or think of him often or with nostalgic fondness. My daughter doesn't know who he is when she comes across old pictures of us, but she knows about other old friends, since I mentioned them. On the other hand, it's been 20 years. It's hard for me to have close friends still, because I feel like they may be building lists of things I do wrong and ways I just am wrong and awful. And maybe they'll call one day when I least expect it and list it all. It wasn't good. She started routinely paying rent weeks late, and blocked me from her social media so she could secretly post about going to concerts and music festivals with her rent money. He dated my best friend, they met because of me, and she utterly trashed his heart and cheated on him. Just awful. I regret introducing them. Our friendship got ghosted during their relationship, and after they broke up, it was clearly done. Sucks, but I get it. Still miss the dude. Hope he's happier now that he got the fuck away from everyone. She faked dying of cancer.